Rockwell.
I'd like to know, are you really ready for some super dynamite soul? And thank you, because now it's start time.
Rockwell.
Assalamu alaikum. What's good? It is Saturday, April 3rd. The time is 7 p.m. You are tuned in to the place to be with me, your brother, DJ Rockwell, the nation's #1 DJ. You are watching the Rockwell Radio Show. This is episode 25, and we got another hard-hitting episode for you. And you know, when you see me put on the Class A, I got some MGT in the building because, you know, on a regular occasion, I can, wear my hat to the back and do my little hip hop thing. But when the MGT are present, we got to shine off. We got to clean up a little bit, So we want to make sure that everybody shares the show. Every Saturday around this time, I hit the same plug. If you're watching via Facebook, hit the like button, hit the share button, and tag somebody. And if you're watching via YouTube, be sure to subscribe. Yes, we are on a subscription drive to get more faces in the place to watch the Rockwell Radio Show. Big shout out to my brother, my co-host, my producer, still not here. Dave is recovering from COVID in his family, and by God's grace, they're doing so much better. So as soon as my brother gets that negative test, he'll be back here with you and I on the Rockwell Radio Show. Also, we want to make sure that we are all aware that the Final Call Radio, whom we support fully at the Rockwell Radio Show, is celebrating their 1-year anniversary. So after the Rockwell Radio Show, go right to finalcall.com and check out the Honorable Louis Farrakhan consistently 24 hours a day on Final Call Radio. Let's get to why we're here. So remember, tag somebody, share the show. Let's get to why we're here. Now, this is a show that is based on hip hop, culture, the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, politics, current events. This show is typically not about love and relationships. It's really not. But after I read a certain book that came across my radar, it was inevitable that I have the author on this show to get inside the sister's mind to figure out what encouraged her to write such a necessary, great book to help everyone have better communication. And you'll hear that word a lot in this conversation: communication, relationship, and compatibility. Too many of us come from failed marriage families, single parent families, and unfortunately, too many of us are repeating the same errors. I don't call myself a relationship advice expert, and I don't think that my guest today refers to herself in that manner either. But what we are people with experience, and it'd be a crime for people with experience not to share what they know. And with this beautiful book called Relationship Talks by our dear sister, Katrina Muhammad, she's done exactly that. So let's read just a few quick details about our sister. And we're going to bring on, is that all right with y'all? Again, you're watching the Rockwell Radio Show. My name is DJ Rockwell, the nation's #1 DJ. And soon to come to the microphone, let me tell you all a bit about our sister real quick before we bring her live. Our sister, originally from Detroit. Sisters lived in Atlanta, lived in Florida, moved around because she's a busy sister. She gets it done. She's a mover and a shaker. Our sister, her background is in education. And it's no surprise considering she's written a great book like this that informs us all so well. Her current career is in pharmaceutical sales. And the most important thing about our dear sister is that she is a longtime supporter, soldier, and student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And now we can add to that long list of accomplishments, author of this book, Relationship Talks. Please welcome to the Rockwell Radio Show, our sister, Katrina Muhammad.
Oh.
There she goes.
How are you?
Assalamu alaikum, Queen.
So good to see you. Thank you so much for having me on the Rockwell Show. I have been looking forward to this interview for so long. So thank you so much, DJ Vaughn, Muhammad. I am so excited that you asked me to be on the show, that you read the book cover to cover. Some of our dialogue we've had since you've read the book. I cannot wait to hear your questions and also the questions from your audience and listeners of the show. So thank you so much. And also prayers to your producer, I think you said at the beginning. His name is Brother Dave. Prayers to him that he gets better and back on the show soon.
Big Dave, you heard it right from Sister Katrina, bro. We waiting on you, Chief. So again, if you are watching, you are tuned in to the Rockwell Radio Show. It's now a little after 7 o'clock, and we've got 60 whole minutes, and God willing, we won't waste a one. If you want to participate in this conversation, you can get involved via this show with the chat room on Facebook and or YouTube. We want to hear from you. And if time permits, we just might open up the phone lines so you can ask Sister Katrina a direct question yourself about her book. So, Sister Katrina, can we jump in?
Let's talk. Yes.
First of all, again, welcome to the show. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much. All praises are due to Allah. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Thank you so much, brother, for inviting me. This is a very important discussion we're about to have. This is a very important topic. The only thing more important than family is God.
Come on.
So the order or rank is God, family, nation, everybody else after that. So you see family is ranked very, very high. And we need to have conversations about how to save the Black family.
Now, with that as the context, as this is primarily a hip hop show, and everybody that views the show is not necessarily Muslim or a registered member of the Nation of Islam. And tonight we're going to use the word or phrase courtship a lot.
Yes.
Will you please, for our audience who may not be aware of what that entails, can you please explain what is courtship and why do people of good intent choose to begin relationships in this manner?
So the way I define courtship in the book is, first of all, it's a noun, a period during which a couple develops a romantic relationship, especially with a view to marriage. Behavior designed to persuade someone to marry or develop a romantic relationship with one. I only have a few words of like a glossary just to make sure we set the stage when you start reading this book. Just to make sure people understand there is a difference between courtship and dating. Dating, for an example, is a situation where you might be seeing more than one person and you're just kind of going out with different people and getting a feel for, you know, who you might be interested in. Whereas courtship is you've pretty much narrowed it down to one person.
Okay.
And that one person that you're interested in, and you're serious about them. You're serious enough to possibly take it to the next stage. And the next stage would be engagement and marriage. So courtship is very serious. It's not to be played with. That person who you're courting is not to be toyed with. They shouldn't be doing that to you. This is someone of whom you really want to develop a serious relationship with, and you have feelings for, you care about them, and possibly want to take things to the next level.
So again, for our viewing audience who may or may not be as intimately aware as we are, can you please explain why this is a wise choice of entering into a relationship as opposed to the way we may have did it pre-Islam?
Yes. Okay, so pre-Islam, which would include myself, everyone, I didn't take my Shahada until I was 16. And then even then, I mean, I wasn't really dating because my dad was like, no, that's not happening. But then I went away to college, right? And I got a chance to experience life a little bit and date. And so what that experience was like versus courting is like two different worlds. I mean, courtship is an understanding that I am possibly considering this person for marriage. So there's no game playing. It is it is discussion. It is taking each other to court, which means finding out intimate details about one another. Whereas dating, I mean, it's just, in my mind, dating, whenever I used to date and friends of mine who I know still date, it's just like you're having fun. It's not about having serious conversation or even marriage. That topic may never come up if you're dating someone. And so that would be the difference. Courtship is an understanding that we are having communication. We are having outings. I'm meeting your family. I'm giving you some receipts. You're giving me some receipt so that we can verify that word verify, very important, that you are who you say you are and I am who I say I am. And so that's what courtship is about. It's a very serious thing, and it needs to be taken seriously.
Come on now. You are tuned into the Rockwell Radio Show, and my guest is Sister Katrina Muhammad. And we want you to hit that like button, hit that share button, tag somebody, because the conversation is about to get interesting right about now. Let's jump into Come on now. Listen to this, Katrina. Everywhere you turn, somebody somewhere seems to be giving relationship advice via books, podcasts, or other media forms.
Yes.
Nowhere in your book, if I'm correct, do you refer to yourself as a relationship expert. And in fact, you're very transparent in sharing your own difficult experiences in history. Why then did you choose this subject for your first book?
You know, when I started developing these questions, I was developing them, in all honesty, to you and your audience, as a list for myself. Because I was married and divorced, had not anticipated or even imagined that I would become a part of the divorce statistics when I thought I pretty much did everything correctly, checked the boxes. And this is after a courtship, not dating. But yet still, I found myself a part of the divorce statistics. So I said, okay, I need to go inward. I need to look at my process. I need to figure out where the gap is or was. And I realized at the end of the day, I did not ask enough questions. So I decided to put this list together for myself. And as I was sharing it on social media and with your friends, people were like, wow, that is a really good question. I would have never thought to ask that question. And then people started asking me, are you putting all these questions in a book? And then people started sending me private messages, like couples.
How about it?
Asking me, do I have questions pertaining to this subject or that subject? And I was like, yeah, actually I do. I just haven't posted it. They were like, can you please post those questions? Because we are looking forward to your questions, to answer and ask each other. And then I think I got a message from a couple that had already married. They were a newly married couple, maybe only had been married a year. And they confided in me and told me that there were questions that I was posting that they had never asked each other. So they were actually already married and learning new things about each other that they never knew. So at that point, especially after everybody kept saying, write a book, I was like, okay, Allah, I guess you're trying to tell me to write a book. So knowing that, we don't believe, I don't believe, we don't believe in a mystery God, that Allah, God works through people. So, we get those hints all the time. And then people say, I wonder, I have this idea. That's Allah talking to you. That's Allah working through someone else, confirming that idea that Allah has planted in your mind is a good one and you need to go for it.
Having said that,
don't ignore that.
Or did you jump right in?
You know what? I hesitated for a minute, like, wow, really? Like, Allah, people would want to buy a book of questions? Really?
How about that?
So I started researching because in my mind, I was like, well, let me just, see if there's some books out there and I'm going to refer people to those books. And when I did my research, I didn't find anything like what I've written. And so at that point, it was like, okay, Allah, I need to do this book. I got it. I got it. Let me sit down and make this happen. So I really started writing the book in 2015. And then I didn't really get serious about the book until like 2019. And then I got really serious about the book when COVID happened, because at that point, all my excuses of being busy from work and whatever, all my excuses were gone at that point. Right? Yeah. So I got serious. I was sheltered at home and I had my laptop and, my job, my employment, we did some work online that kind of finished around 12 p.m. every day. And then after that, I just jumped on the computer and finished typing and finished getting the manuscript done. So all praises are due to Allah. And
the result is this beautiful book called Relationship Talks was born. And our guest is Katrina Muhammad, and she's going to help us dig into this book and help you and I learn how to ask the right questions to get the information we need. Let's ask another question here. There are two quotes, Sister Katrina, among many that stood out to me, and I'd like to highlight them and just to get some feedback from you.
Sure.
Let me show you the first one. The first one says, do not be afraid to ask and answer the hard questions. It is absolutely critical to our survival, quality of life, and happiness. Happiness that we make better life decisions. To me, that almost served as a theme for this entire conversation. And there was another quote I think also fits that serves as a theme that will be the guiding line for this conversation. It's this one.
Yes.
The problem is many people are not having these in-depth conversation beforehand. It is only after they are married when they discover, they're not, keyword, compatible. And then they're motivated to get a divorce.
Right.
So please explain. Here's the question. What is a good conversation? We hear this term thrown around a lot. Quality conversation. What is it? How do you describe it? And how do you know when you're having one?
A good quality conversation, you'll know when you're having one because it feels good. And it also stays on your mind later, maybe even hours later, maybe even days later after you've left that person. So it's a feeling. You definitely can feel it. Now, what is it? It is person A and person B having an in-depth, honest, fun, truthful conversation about how they feel, what they think, opining on specific things that matter to them, that's important to them, being heard, speaking clearly, and the other person receiving that information, responding to that information, maybe in the affirmative. And if it's not necessarily in total agreement, because we're not going to always agree on everything, right?
Correct.
At least the conversation is they're doing that in an agreeable manner. You can disagree with someone in an agreeable manner. It's okay. So that should not scare you from having the conversation of, like you said from the quote, asking the hard questions, asking the in-depth questions, because it's very, very important. So that would be a good conversation. It is explaining and outputting, inputting, receiving, responding back. And it's that person. It's almost like a dance in a way, where you have the two people kind of taking turns. No one's talking over each other.
I love
No
that.
one is being disrespectful to one another. No one is calling each other out with names or, demeaning the other person. That's not happening. What's happening is an upliftment. They are uplifting each other. They are affirming some things. They are communicating.
I love that picture you just painted. That
Yes.
a good conversation is like a beautiful dance.
It is.
That nobody's
sometimes.
I love that. I love that picture you just painted.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes partner A might be leading, right? Just like in a dance, and partner B is following along. And then at other times, maybe partner B is leading the discussion of wherever that conversation led to, and partner A is following along. But it's an ebb and flow, almost just like a dance, or even the flow of water. Very, very smooth and enjoyable. You've had a good conversation when you are thinking about it minutes later, hours later, days later.
Over.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that picture. You are tuned into the Rockwell Radio Show. This story is bigger than hip hop when we are talking about how to build a Black family via securing our relationships. By all means, share the show. Tag somebody. If you know somebody that needs to be hearing this conversation right now, go ahead and tag them. Don't play. Don't wait around, because this conversation is going even in higher gear. This is DJ Rockwell, the nation's #1 DJ, and my guest today is our dear sister, Katrina Muhammad, author of the book Relationship Talks. And you must get this book. I tell you what, not only was it a nail biter, it made me look at me. Some of the things I found to be, they provoked introspection. Because as we said before we went live, is not only did we not ask our spouse some of these questions, we never even thought about them ourselves. So before I move on to my next question, I'm curious to ask, what is some of the general feedback you're getting from the readers of this book?
I'm so glad you asked that question. And I'm glad you made the statement of what you just said, using the word introspection, because that is the feedback I've been getting. There are many single people who have bought this book that are not in a courtship, but they bought the book expecting to circle some questions they were going to ask the person once they get in a courtship, but they got so involved in the book that it gave them that introspection of how they really feel, really discovering themselves, things that they never even thought about. And so they're asking themselves the question, wait a minute, so how do I feel about this subject? And so they told me that. People said, look, I wasn't expecting to learn things about myself by reading your book, but that's exactly what happened. So I've been getting that feedback. I have one couple, a married couple, over 20 years, they've been married. They love the book so much that they have began doing family night with their children and reading the questions as a family and discussing.
Awesome.
I mean, just think about how prepared their children are going to be for a mature, responsible, loving, and kind relationship as they grow older. I mean, this is what we have to do. It's called the science of mating. And we need to start having these discussions with our children so that they can have a healthy marriage and family life.
Shout out to the Jock Brothers in the building. Salute, big brothers.
And thank you, Jock Brothers.
Every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Make sure you support our brothers, the Jock Brothers. Let's move on to the next question here.
Yes, sir.
I got to look creative. Let me stop the music right here. I want you to get this real good here. Now, you know I'm a DJ, so I got to make a musical reference every now and then.
Yes.
Now, I grew up
not just a DJ Rockwell. You are one of the best DJs. Let's be clear. I'm not gonna let you just like casually, I'm a DJ. No, you're one of the best DJs, and I'm not just saying that because I know you. You are really one of the best. So
the check is email. That's coming to your cash app after this. Now, I was a big fan of the musical group Guy, the R&B group Guy. Aaron Hall, the lead singer of Guy, In 1988, they had a hit record called Piece of My Love. There was a part of this record where Aaron Hall sang this.
There's a few things in my past that should not be explained.
Did y'all get that? Did y'all hear that? What did you hear? Aaron Hall sang these words.
There's a few things in my past that should not be explained.
Wait a minute, Aaron. Here's the question. Although I play that in humor, is there any truth to what he just said? Does the saying, let the past be in the past, ever apply in courtship?
No. let me just say no. Let me say no, sir. And in that same song, they also call women a dumb bee in that same song.
We've been arguing about that for 30 years, whether he said that or not.
He said it. He said it. And then it was funny because my friends and I at the time, we were like, wait, what did he just say? We don't like that song anymore. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan actually made a fantastic video that I think your audience should watch after your show. Not right now, but after your show. And it is the divine value of the woman. And in that lecture that he did in front of a sanctuary full of women, there were some men there too, because it was the Vanguard retreat. He actually gets into this topic of what you asked, and he said that we need to verify each other.
Listen,
that we should not be afraid to ask questions and to answer them. That the only way we're going to get to know each other is if we ask the question. And so then the minister, because he doesn't just leave it at that, right? He's very intelligent. He's very specific. He goes deeper and starts giving samples and examples of the questions we should ask. And some of the questions he mentioned on the video in the lecture, I also have those questions in my book. So when I was doing some research and watched this tape again, because I had watched it years ago, you watch something, you don't necessarily remember that specific, right. But I watched it again, and then I came upon that part on the video, and I leaped up, and I was like, Allahu Akbar, because it was like that extra verification of Allah telling me that these questions in this book, regardless of how sensitive some people might think that they are indeed necessary. They are indeed important, and all praises to Allah. If people use them and answer them and ask them, they will get to know that other person sitting across from them, of whom they're considering for marriage. They will get to know that person through and through. So to me, that was just confirmation. So no question is off the table. You should ask. You should ask.
Aaron Hall is dead wrong.
He's dead wrong. He's dead wrong for that and that other lyric. Lyric. He's dead wrong for that too.
So my brothers from the Jock Brothers, they say, let the past go. He say, let the past go. So does that mean that, and I think that should be put into proper context, letting the past go, because we don't want to drag up people's, I don't know. To be honest, the jury is still out for me, because there's some things in my past I don't necessarily want to, usher out in front of the world. We got things that we've done in our history that, okay, can we not talk about that? So do you honestly think that every ugly detail should be brought out in the context of courting?
Now, there is a fine line. There aren't really absolutes, right? Because there could be something that's between you and Allah, you and your God, and you have, reformed yourself. You have improved yourself. This is something that happened to you when you were 16, 17, 18, whatever. And it's not necessarily relationship related, right? So maybe not, right? But certainly, there are a lot of things that people would say, well, if I cheated on all of my exes, that's between me and my God. You don't need to know that. And I would assume that the new suitor of this woman would want to know what happened in those other relationships. What do you mean it's between you and your God? I need to know why you've been married 2, 3, 4 times. I need to know that.
That's fair game.
You need to tell me that. I need to know if you have an ex-husband or an ex-suitor that is violent, that you filed a PPO on that person.
Listen.
That they've been following you. They've been hiding out at your house, waiting, stalking you. I need to know that. I mean, so
right.
We can really split hairs on what is need to know and what is too much business that's none of your business. But the reality is, if you are trying to marry someone, develop a life with them, bring your children around them, bring them around your family, sleep in the same house with them, share your finances with them. Don't you really want to know who that person is?
And like you say in your introductory quote, you have to ask and answer these hard questions. We are at the halfway mark, Sister Katrina. Like I knew this 60 minutes was going to go so fast.
It's going so fast.
We're at the halfway mark. We're going to take a 60-second break. Our guest is Sister Katrina Muhammad, the author of the brand new book, Relationship Talks. And before the show is over, we're going to tell you where you can get your hands on this most important book and read it for yourself. My name is DJ Rockwell, the nation's #1 DJ, and you're tuned in to the hottest podcast on Facebook and YouTube right now, the Rockwell Radio Show. Hang on, 60 seconds. We'll be right back.
This is your brother Willie Muhammad, and I'm asking each and every one of you all to tune into the DJ Rockwell Show, live online. Peace.
Peace. This is your sister Aisha, the mental resurrectionist, hailing out of Baltimore, Maryland. Listen, whenever I'm online, I always tune into the Rockwell Radio Show. It's that hype. It's that dopeness. And you should tune in too. Peace to my brothers David and DJ Rockwell for holding it down, locking it down, giving us those sounds. Love y'all. Peace.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Sister Latasha Muhammad, and when I'm online, I rock with the Rockwell Radio Show.
Since we're back, again, you're tuned into the Rockwell Radio Show. My name is DJ Rockwell, the nation's #1 DJ, and my guest tonight on the Rockwell Radio Show is Sister Katrina Muhammad, author of the brand new book, the must-read, must-own book, Relationships Talks. And we're talking about relationships on the Rockwell Radio Show tonight. More so than relationships, not just relationships. We're discussing questions, how to ask the right questions to get the information you need to make the most important decision you ever make in your life. Sister Katrina, let me ask this next question here. Question 90 on page 57 stood out to me a lot. To summarize it, it asked, what would you do if your questions were answered with, and this is some kind of to the Aaron Hall thing. What would you do if your questions were answered with, that's none of your business? Let's say even if they worded it in a nice manner and said, I'd rather not talk about that. Should any attempt to withhold information be viewed as a red flag?
I speak to this issue early in the book, in the instructions of the book, that if there's a situation where you encounter a question that the other person doesn't want to answer, then it's best for you not to make assumptions. Ask them why. Why is a very important question. Just that word alone, why, throughout this entire book. Because it's very easy, I think, sometimes for people to maybe go negative or go, on the poor side, like thinking, oh, they're hiding something, but that may not be it. They may just be nervous. They may feel like the relationship or the courtship at that point is not secure enough where they feel like they can disclose that information to you, and they need more time. Maybe there's some other things they want to talk about before discussing that. So, it's best to ask them why, and then see if there's a time frame. See if they say, well, really, it's just a question I don't want to answer right now. But, let us continue with this courtship, and maybe in like a month or two, as we get closer, as I get to know you better, we both get to know each other better, then I feel more comfortable asking and answering that question. Is that okay with you? I mean, that's perfectly reasonable. I think that's reasonable. But if it's a situation where it's a hard stop and the person is saying, I'm never going to, talk to you about such and such subject, then you have to decide, is that a deal breaker for you? If there's some questions that you really need answered to make you feel comfortable continuing the courtship or even considering that person for marriage, and they are absolutely refusing to answer that, you have to decide, is it a deal breaker? Some questions in this book, and there are over 2,000 questions for your viewers and listeners in this book, that you may not ask those questions at all, because that whole segment of questions, like I have a chapter called Transportation, and I think that's a great chapter. There's a lot of information in that chapter, but that chapter, and it's the questions that are within, may not be interesting to the couple, and a person may decide to skip that entire chapter altogether because they care more about the first two chapters, finance and work and friends and family, right? And that's perfectly okay. It's not necessary and it's not expected that people will ask all 2,000 plus questions in the book. These are there for a reference.
That will make for a long courtship, I'm sure.
Yes.
So let me ask this question. Sister Katrina, your book, wow, it covers such a wide range of topics, including health, finance, intimacy, habits, family background, and even more. How do you ask these deep dive questions without causing your courtmate to feel like this is an interrogation?
Yes, you definitely don't want people to feel like it's an interrogation. That goes back to one of your very first questions in this conversation that we've been having today, with regards to how do you have a good conversation? What does it feel like? What does it look like? And I referenced the metaphor of a good dance. It's almost like a dance between two people, or the flow of water, seamlessly flowing. And it's a very good conversation that you end up really reminiscing on and thinking about, and maybe even analyzing like days later, months later, maybe, right? But it makes you feel good. Like that's how the conversation should be. So you definitely should time yourself. You should, in some cases, present it from the perspective of you agree on specific chapters you want to start with first. You should definitely read the question out loud before just blurting out your response. Just make sure that other person wants to even have a discussion about that question and get agreement. That's how it should be. It should be very easy and very natural, not, under the hard interrogation lights in an interrogation room, maybe with some coffee, maybe at a coffee shop. You're just sitting down, you're having some tea and coffee, and you're just having a fun conversation. It's springtime now. It's 76 degrees here in Chicago. Maybe you go to a park, you sit on a bench, you're talking to one another, you're taking in the nice sun, the wonderful, weather that we're having this weekend. Like that's how it should be. Very natural, very easy, very warm, and very, very comforting. That's what it should be.
I'm gonna go off script for a brief moment because this inspired another thought midstream here. Some people, I'll take myself for example. I enjoy being questioned because it shows interest. oh, this person is interested in me and they want to know something about me. So they ask me questions. So that's cool. There's another frame of thought that says questions diffuse romance. Oh my God, you got these questions. My God, I ain't even want to talk to her no more. So do you think that the latter is true in any way, or have you ever had that experience?
I definitely know some people like that. I have even had a couple of people admit to me the questions are great, but then they said, do you think it might scare the other person off? Right?
Deal with that.
So this is why the steps in the book are very important. And I know sometimes, sometimes our people, melanated people, just want to get to the point. We skip the instructions. We skip the forward. We skip the introduction. We skip all that. We just jump right into the book. But the forward, the introduction, the note from the editor, all of that is there for a reason. The forward to this book was written by student minister Jamil Muhammad. It is superb. Okay. Let me tell you, he breaks it down and helps you understand what you will get out of this book and why it's important and how you should approach it. You and your courtmate should read that together. The note from the editor. My editor is Sister Katrina Muhammad. Again, fantastic editor. And I just love Sister Katrina. We've known each other for many years. You need to read that. Even though it's just one page, it's very brief. What she has to say as the editor of having read through this book many, many times is important. Then the introduction from the author, myself, laying the foundation in terms of telling the reader what this book involves, how to approach it, what I was trying to get across, some pitfalls to be cautious about, all that needs to be read by the reader. And then, of course, finally, the clear the word, and then the instructions, which is called Let's Begin.
There you go.
Very important not to skip those steps and just jump right into the questions because you haven't laid the foundation. This is a very different book. This book, is very different. The questions are very different. People have told me, never, ever have I thought to ask that question, but that is a good question. So if you just come out, just off the cuff, out the bat with these questions, a person might get offended. They might look at it and say, well, why you ask me that? Is my headpiece straight? Like, why did you ask me that question, right? So we have to be careful. We have to lay the foundation. It's very important.
That is a perfect segue, Sister Katrina, into my next question. You devote an entire chapter of questions about intimacy. Y'all think I can dodge that, right? And you ask some questions that might make some people uncomfortable. In courtship, is there any such thing? And perhaps this question has been asked already in different forms, but here I think it's very specific. Is there any such thing as a question that's too personal to ask? And as I read through that section of your book, I imagined myself in that setting, in that situation, and fixing my mouth to ask these questions. All I saw is I kept seeing images of myself getting slapped. So are there some things that are just, save that to after the I do, not before, in that area?
Absolutely not. that area, I mean, let's just face it. There are a lot of people that because they didn't have conversations about intimacy, they are getting surprised after they say I do, and not in a good way. And at that point, you're already married. So you must be honest, put it all on the table to make sure, even in that area of intimacy, of finance, work, family, friends, that you are compatible with the person. You can't just go off of, well, I'm attracted to them. There's some chemistry. I think he liked me. She cute, he cute. You can't go off of that. You have to have in-depth conversations. But again, you can't just jump right in, right? You have to set the foundation. There's an introduction to each chapter, and the introduction to that chapter is very, very important. And then Then you start with the questions. But you cannot skip these chapters because, I mean, that's really, I'll tell you the top 3 reasons for divorce that I researched.
Okay.
Finance was number 1.
Hold on, let me stop the music. I want the audience to get this. Let's hear those.
Finance was number 1. Finance problems in a relationship was the number 1 reason for divorce. Second reason was infidelity, intimacy issues and problems. And number 3, excuse me, that was number 2. Number 3 is communication problems. So finance, intimacy or infidelity, and then communication problems. So skip the intimacy chapter? I think not. Skip the finance chapter? No, I think not. Skip the friends and family? No. Skip the health chapter? No. All these things, you need to know what you're getting into. I mean, what we're talking about when you're marrying someone is the 2 of you are becoming one.
Come on. Right.
And so how can you become one with someone and you don't even know them?
Come on.
How can you do that? And so this is what's happening. People are not having these conversations. For whatever reason, they're shy. They think the other person might be offended, or they have some stuff they just don't want to talk about and reveal. Now you get married, it's going to come out anyway, right? It comes out.
Again, so, the question, why? Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do you think that we jump the broom, we get the rings, and we go through these very expensive ceremonies, and we didn't invest the time up front to even ask important and pertinent questions? Why do you think people do that?
I love that you explained that I'm not a counselor or therapist, because I'm not. I'm a regular person, just like your viewers and listeners, that's going through this life, trying to make good decisions, trying to become a better Katrina today than I was yesterday, right? And so what I've learned through all my research for this book, all the conversations I've had, is that essentially we have to be taught how to have better relationships. And we simply have not been taught, brother. We have not. People do what they saw their mama do, their daddy do, right? And hopefully mama and daddy was in the same house. But these days, our people are raised mostly in single parent households. And so you're already missing something when that happens. You're not able to observe as a child growing up, seeing mom and dad in the same house and how they interact and how they make a marriage work. You're not able to see that because you're raised in a single parent household. So now you're trying to figure it out and just do the best that you can. It's almost like, I like metaphors, right? Walking into a room, the lights are off, and instead of asking where the light switch is or asking someone to cut the lights on, you just fumble around in a room, feeling on the walls, trying to figure out where the light switch is. Like, that's what we're doing over and over again. We have to break the generational curse of divorce. We have a 50 to 75% divorce rate in the Black community. Alone. We have the worst divorce rate of any ethnic group, period. That is a 5-alarm fire in my mind. We have an epidemic. We have a problem. We have to draw attention to this. We have to take back the power, take back our families, help create better Black families. Like, this is a sense of urgency.
Listen.
That's where we are.
Now, we are at the last 15 minutes plus, less than the last 15 minutes of the show. If you're tuned in, thank you for watching. You are watching the Rockwell Radio Show. My name is DJ Rockwell. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and hit that share button and tag somebody. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. We want to get everybody tied into the Rockwell Radio Show because we got so much to share. Dear sister, we're going to the last few moments here. Now
we're about to land the plane, brother.
But we're gonna challenge you a little bit with this next question.
Yes, sir.
Now, as you've already pointed out, there are 2,000 plus questions that people can choose to study and ask in this book. You waste no time and you hold no punches in the questions you choose to ask. Now, here's the challenge I have for you. if you were only allowed to ask 3 questions, 3 out of 2,000, that your potential courtmate must answer truthfully, what 3 questions would they be?
Ooh, that is a hard question, my brother. But I'm going to go with a question from the finance and work chapter.
Okay.
Do you believe married couples should have separate accounts, a joint account, or both? That's question number 1. That question, I would then skip over to friends and family, and I would ask, let's ask question number 1 from friends and family. Should a person consult with their spouse before allowing a family member or anyone else who may need assistance to move in their home? Then I would skip over to privacy and health, because I really love that chapter, maybe because I'm in the medical profession. Well, there's 2 things. I mean, there's privacy and then there's health. So, you said it's only 3.
Only 3.
Well, I guess I'll still ask question number 1, which deals more so with privacy. Do you believe it's okay for a spouse to answer the other spouse's phone, text messages, or emails?
Very interesting choices. Very interesting choices. Now, I want to extend this same challenge to all the viewers. I want you to put in the comments, if you're watching, if you only had 3 questions to ask, even if you haven't read this fantastic book yet, I want to know what you, the reader, think. If you could ask your potential courtmate only 3 questions, what 3 questions would they be? So I'm looking to see and read those in the comment section. What 3 questions would you ask if you only were allowed 3? So as we wind down, getting close. That was a hard choice.
I've never been asked that because I love so many of the questions. So that was hard. Thank you for that.
Now we're going to open up the phone lines here. We got a few minutes. So in case there's anyone that wants to call in, and we're encouraging you to call in and talk to our dear sister, Katrina Muhammad, the author of the brand new book, Relationship Talks. You can call us right now at 404-919-7399. Call us right now. We are live on your Facebook, live on your YouTube. Call us right now at 404-919-7399 and talk to your brother, DJ Rockwell, and your sister, the author of Relationship Talks, Sister Katrina Muhammad. So why we wait for the phone to ring if they choose to call? Because Sister Katrina said she ain't scared. She'll talk to y'all.
She ain't
scared. She said she ain't scared. So
not at all.
Let me ask this question as we wait for the phone to ring.
Yes, sir.
When the reader turns the last page of your book and they put it down, what is it that you hope that they've taken away from reading your book?
I hope that they have hope in relationships and that this book invigorates them and excites them about either courtship they're in or a courtship they're soon to be in, that they feel like finally they have a manual, a guide, a book that's going to help them have quality, informative, meaningful conversation with their beloved, with someone they care about. And that's whether they're in courtship, they're engaged, or they're married. That this is a book that's going to help them get to know each other better. Like, that's just the bottom line of it all. I really hope that's the takeaway for the reader.
Okay, we have a call.
And I say that, brother, because I've met so many people.
Before you answer, let's hear what the callers have to say.
Oh, yes.
You are live on the Rockwell Radio Show with our guest, Sister Katrina Muhammad. And who am I speaking to?
Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. King, how's the brother?
I'm good, black man's brother Kadeem.
Come on, black man. How are you? How are you? Man, glad to have you. What you want to shoot at our sister?
Quick question, or just a thought that can also be elaborated on, sister. I think that when we become engaged in a courtship, at that point of engagement, the question should become a little bit deeper, as opposed to asking some of those really sensitive questions early on, because engagement is the continuation of the courtship. It's not a commitment like marriage. Could you talk about that? Thank you, Brother Rockwell. You know, we always supporting you. We love you, brother.
Love you more, my brother.
Very good. Very good question. Yes, thank you, caller, for that question. Very good question. It is a different stage. However, what I've been finding out through my research of speaking with engaged couples, courtship couples, and married couples is that many of them did not ask the serious questions, the hard questions, or enough questions in the courtship. So you really have to gauge that. Like each engaged couple has to gauge for themselves if they have gotten all the answers to questions that are important to them. So this book, you need to discuss it. You need to go through it yourself. You need to figure out what's a deal breaker for you. What are questions, things that, you know, now that you're engaged to this person, even though you're engaged, you never talked about this situation or this scenario. So still have the discussion. Still go through the questions for yourself and with each other.
Excellent. Excellent. Dear sister, we are in the last 4 minutes of our show. I always save the most challenging questions for last.
Yes,
are you ready for this question?
Yes, sir.
So let me stop the music. Sister Katrina Muhammad, author of Relationships Talks. Relationship Talks. And we're going to talk about where they can get in just a moment. You ask, as you stated, 2,000 questions. You dig deep. You make the person on the other side of that table think very hard before they answer. But you left out one extremely important question that I'm going to pose to you right now here on the Rockwell Radio Show. Are you ready for that question?
Yes, sir.
Who's your top 5 MCs?
Who's my top 5 MCs? Is that what you said?
You can't come on the Rockwell Radio Show and you not tell us who's your top 5.
Oh, Allah, help me. Let me see. In hip hop, Jay-Z.
Jay, okay, it's 1.
Nas.
2.
Biggie.
Biggie's 3.
Mos Def.
Ooh, Mos Def. Let's go. That's 4.
Talib Kweli. What?
And Kweli on the 5 spot.
That's right. Tribe Called Quest.
Thank you
that
for
was hard.
On that question right there. I tell you what, so not only are for this is to the watcher and the listener. Not only do I want you to pick your 3 questions you would ask, give us your feedback on her top 5. Did she hit the mark or did she hit the mark? Sister, we thank you so much for being a guest on the Rockwell Radio Show. Let's go ahead and tell the watchers where they can get their copy of Relationship Talks.
Thank you so much, DJ Rockwell. I really, really appreciate you. First of all, I want to thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan because I have some books listed in the supplemental reading, books that are written by him and other people that I highly recommend couples read together. Also, I have quotes all throughout the book from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that I took, lifted up his words from specific lectures that he's given on marriage, love, and relationships. So I think that that's worth watching. Absolutely. I hope the listeners, when they get the book, they also view some of his lectures. So I want to say that the book can be purchased off of Amazon, easy off Amazon. And then if you're an ebook reader, the book is on gumroad.com, or if you want to support Buying Black and purchase a book from myself and from the other registered official booksellers, then email us at relationshiptalk with an S book@gmail. Relationshiptalkbook@gmail. And we will send you your book and give you all the purchase information.
And you can go right to her website to learn more about our dear sister, Katrina Muhammad, and this great book that I am personally co-signing and guaranteeing is not only a good read, it will challenge you to think deeper, to ask deeper, and to go deeper when you sit across the table from that potential courtmate of yours. Sister, any final words, shout outs, thank yous, anything else you want to say before we get out of here today?
Of course, I have to give a shout out to Detroit, Muhammad Moss #1. What?
Go ahead, number 1.
And then, of course, number 15, where I live, number 6 in Baltimore, and of course, number 2 right here in Chicago, the headquarters. I got to give a shout out. And of course, all the readers who have been sending me their feedback. Let me tell you, some of the feedback I've been getting has had me in tears. I've just so thankful for the positive words, for the encouragement. I'm going to send all this information, inshallah, to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because I really want him to see what people have been saying about this book. So continue to send me your feedback. And I just want to thank you, your listeners, and everyone who's been so supportive. Thank you so much. All praises are due to Allah.
It's been an honor. And before we go, let me plug one more. Let me plug for the first time in less than a week, next Friday, yours truly, DJ Rockwell, in association with the NOI DJs, in association with Power357Radio.com, are going to be doing 90s R&B. We're going to do a live show on Zoom, and we want you to be there. Stay on the lookout for more information regarding this big event. And in closing, we say again, support the Final Call Radio. It's a radio-a-thon weekend, and we're raising funds to keep the voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on the air as he's been pulled off of every social platform they have. But the truth lies with you, because you can help keep his voice on the air. Sister Katrina, thank you so much for being a supporter, a student, and a soldier of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Thank you so much. All praises are due to Allah. Thank you, DJ Rockwell.
See y'all next week. Next week, Steve Chase, live on the Rockwell Radio Show. We out of here. Salute.
I'd like to know, are you really ready for some super dynamite soul?